Hello again, everyone. Today we are going to discuss foreign direct investment. Um, that foreign direct investment is one of the most important parts of international economics and international business. Right? If you see the definition there, foreign direct investment is the physical investment. Right? So if a firm or um, could be a public firm or private firm or government sponsored firm or any kind of firm that is going to another country to build facilities, right, to invest directly in infrastructure or facilities to produce or sell goods and services. Okay, so it's see the difference between the foreign direct investment and portfolio investment. Right, in portfolio investment, we could invest in another country using any platform, like investment platforms, securities firms, investment banks, or anything. But and the basic definition of the FDI, foreign direct investment, would be direct investment. So you go there, if you're a firm, you go there, go to another firm, another company, sorry, another country to build facilities to produce and sell your goods and services. Okay, so what is the difference between the flow and the stock of FDI? See the definition there. Flow, as usual, in current accounting term, flow means it happens given a time period, over a given time period, for example, a year. On the other hand, stock means like the accumulated amount for maybe for the last could be 3 years, 5 years, or anything. But again, the flow means what is happening over an investment cycle, most likely a year, whereas the stock of FDI would be the accumulated amount or the accumulated value of foreign-owned assets at a given period. If you look at the trends in FDI, see the increasing trend, but then decreasing a bit toward 2018 that we can see on the screen. For the past 25 years, see the from 1990 to 2007, the outflow means it's going out of one country to another country. It has increased from $250 billion in 1990 to $2.2 trillion in 2007, but then it rebounded slightly afterward to about 1 trillion by 2018. But still, right, this quite a big increment from 1990 to, let's say, 2018. Right, a big, almost, I think it's fourfold there at least. But in 2007, it even reached like $2.2 trillion. I think the trend will continue this way. Of course, it's going up and down. We have the ups and downs, depending on the period when the pandemic, the COVID-19 pandemic hit almost all countries in the world. Of course, we experienced now declining. I think the declining foreign indirect investment for some time, but then it rebounded again. And as always, the cycle will come back again, right? We'll return to the ups and downs, right? Depending on, again, the economic situations in the world. So foreign direct investment has grown rapidly, and there are many reasons. Some of the reasons are presented here. See, the first one, general decline in trade barriers is or can be seen. However, some countries still, put this protectionism, right, protectionist pressure. They still somehow post the protectionism policies. So, if you want to go to a country that in a way that you could really circumvent or avoid this kind of protectionism, then one of the ways would be to do the FDI, because you're going there. So you see, like if you produce in your home country and you want to sell your whatever your goods or your products in general to one particular country, and that country has enacted this kind of protectionism, then most likely your products couldn't go freely to that country, because there's barrier, there's deterrence, right, to your export. But if you go to that country, you build facilities, and essentially you're doing the FDI, right, foreign direct investment. Then you go there, you produce there, you sell it there. So the barriers essentially disappear, right? Because you're not doing the exporting, but you go there to build everything, physical facilities, you produce there, and also you sell your products there. Okay, so this would be the first primary reasons, especially if you're going to maybe a difficult place, but quite attractive, right? Maybe some countries are highly attractive, but they are not really, they are not really free in terms of trade barriers or export and import activities, or trade activities. Second reason, we're looking at the shifting in the political and economic systems in the world. So more and more countries are shifting to more open economy. I think we have seen this for many weeks now, right? Because I think there's a central theme, right? Open economy, more open trade system that benefits almost the benefits both sides or all countries in the world involving the trade. So we are seeing that even some communist countries that are politically communist, but in their economic systems, they want to be rather open, or even very open, right, to economic trade, to market economy, right? Because they know that market economy could lead to more prosperous life, and also more stable political situation as well at home. You can imagine if your economy is good, people are less likely to complain, to do demonstration, or even to initiate like social unrest or something like that, right? Less likely to happen because the economy is good. So again, it is a shifting, a big shifting, even in communist countries or socialistic countries. But in terms of economies, they are quite open. So they are heading toward the market economy. And also, I think globalization of the world economy, this is inevitable, right? Globalization of everything, the economy, the media, the information. And nowadays it's getting harder to, to impose something, to instill an idea without like proving or showing the evidence of it, right? So I think with the openness of information and communication technology, everyone in the world, almost everyone could have access to global news, even in most restrictive countries. Still citizens could find a way, with the whatever technology, with VPN or something, they could have access to global news. So it's again, this kind of openness in information really exhibits the benefits of the open economy. So the globalization is inevitable, I think, in all parts of the world, and has a positive effect on, again, the FDI, because many firms right now, many companies in the world, are seeing the whole world as their global market, as the market in general, rather than seeing like segmented markets or segregated markets. Now they're seeing the world as a global market. Of course, we still have some strategies regarding local responsiveness and global integration. I think we are going to talk about it when we discuss the international business strategy, about the local responsiveness, global integration. We still have to strategize around those those aspects of those sectors. But I think in general, we are seeing more and more firms are seeing the world, like the globe, like the global, let's say the global world as a single market. So doing an FDI, like the foreign direct investment, has been a common practice. Not something spectacular anymore that we thought of maybe some decades ago. Okay, and interestingly, if we look at the direction of FDI, I think in the earlier periods, right, we saw that FDI was dominated by developed nations. So there were more money coming into developed nations because they were more developed in terms of infrastructure, law enforcement, human resources, the talents. But if you look at the later periods, right, toward the 21st century, I think it has been more balanced. Like the red one, right, the red bar there, red part of the bar. See developing nations, and even the green one, the transition economies. The transition economies would be like the previous Soviet Union states or Eastern Europe or something like that is defined as the transition economies. But you look at the red and green, yeah, you see it's more balanced. Any question? Go ahead. If you have any questions, we can discuss it right away. Okay. So yeah, once again, see it's more balanced nowadays. So developing countries have attracted a lot of foreign direct investments as well, right? So the cash inflows or FDI inflows into developing countries, developing nations, and also the transition economies have been increasing. Right? You see seeing the trend there. What about the sources? The sources of FDI. I think after, in the wake of the Second World War, of course, the United States dominated the world economy because the US won the war, and again, that was, I think, the only country not really destroyed by the war. So they won the war without being destruct, being damaged by the war. So it dominated, and see other countries from 1998 to 2018. So the United States, and then the UK, Holland, Germany, Japan, China, even China, I see, from 98 to 2018, see I think it jumped very quickly. And you can imagine that China, I think they began again their development since 1980. So by 1998, there had been the FDI outflow country. Okay, so they are sending money outside the country because they consistently make the current account surplus. Remember the current account surplus, and the main source would be the balance of trade. If you have a surplus balance of trade, you have enormous money in your hands that you have to send out. You have to go out there, go to other countries to invest as a foreign direct investment or something, because that will constitute the balance of payments. You have a positive current account, then most likely you have to send out the money to other countries as FDI. The forms of FDI here, the first one is greenfield. As the name indicates, you can quickly guess, like greenfield means the establishment of new operation in a foreign country. So you build from scratch. It has nothing. You go there, you establish it. You essentially you start from nothing. You build from scratch. And the second we are doing the M&A, right? Merger and acquisition, okay? Merger and acquisition. So the M&A here in our context means we acquire or we merge with another firm, right? We could acquire, you could acquire, you could merge. Yeah, it doesn't really make a difference in our discussion now, but in the context of business law, actually M&A are not exactly the same, right? Not exactly the same. So maybe I'll give quick illustration. One moment. Yeah. Okay, so we have the merger and acquisition. Actually, we have another term called consolidation. So in the context of business law, they are not exactly the same, but of course for international business strategy, we don't really differentiate them. For example, merger means you merge with another company. So if you have like A and B, okay, you have A, firm A, you have firm B, and if you merge, A and B merge, it means that there's one surviving entity, and the other is absorbed into the other firm. So if you have like A, B, and C or whatever, however number of the firms involved, we could always do that. Merger means there's one surviving entity. For example, let's say A is the surviving entity. It means that B and C will disappear. They will be absorbed into firm A. So we call it a merger. So there's only one surviving entity. What about acquisition? If you acquire another firm, let's say you have A and B, and A acquires B. What's the meaning here? A acquires B. It means that A and B both will still exist, but now B is a subsidiary of A. Okay, so both exist, right? Both remain, but now A is the owner or the parent of B, but both still remain, right? This is an acquisition. What about a consolidation? Consolidation, I think, is the easiest to imagine. If you have A and B, if they consolidate, they both disappear and they will become whatever, maybe C or X or whatever you want to call it, right? So merger, there's only one surviving entity. In a case of acquisition, all the involved parties remain, they still exist, but maybe A is now the parent of the others, or however you want to arrange it. But consolidation, all the involved parties are dissolved. And now we have a consolidated firm, maybe C or X or whatever you want to call it. Okay, so again, the second choice here would be the M&A or something like that, right? Could be consolidation as well. The M&A, so you don't go there to begin from the scratch, but maybe you acquire a local firm, or you merge with a local firm, or maybe you make a joint venture. That could be another possibility. You go to, I don't know, you're an American firm, you go to South Korea and you make a joint venture with the local firm or something, right? That could be another possibility. A few basic observations here. Why M&A could be quite interesting. First, quicker, right? M&A seems to be quicker because you go there, if you are acquiring like a local firm, maybe whatever the electronic suppliers, okay? The spare part suppliers of electronic devices. So you go there, you acquire maybe a firm in China, then suddenly you have the assets there, you have the people. So conceptually, like on paper, we are saying that it's quicker. However, of course, now in reality, this could be complicated because now you have to you have to train them in terms of whatever organizational culture, or instilling to instill the code of conduct, the standard of the quality standards and some other things. So it's not as easy as what we imagine, but on paper, we are saying that it's quicker because we don't need to build from scratch. We just go there, we acquire. Second, maybe the foreign firms, right, that you acquire have this kind of like strategic assets. They have brand loyalty, right, customer relationships, whatever, the trademarks, the names, right, or the patents, that the technologies and the patents. They have distribution systems, production systems, and all other factors. So you're calculating, right? You strategize. You're thinking that if you acquire the firm, actually it's quite ready with some strategic assets, some talented people, some brand loyalty or some other things. Okay, imagine if you go, for example, you want to do the foreign direct investment by buying, like what Lenovo, right? Lenovo did with the, for example, IBM, right? The PC, right? PC division of IBM. So immediately you would get the trademark, the brand loyalty, and yeah, some dedicated customers and some other valuable assets. And you make M&A because you believe that you could increase the efficiency of the acquired unit by transferring your capital, technology, or management skills. So you believe that the division or the company that you acquire actually has a potential, but they don't live up to their potential. That's why you believe that when you acquire the firm, you could provide like additional whatever technology, talents, management, or even capital to make that particular business successful. Something that they couldn't achieve by itself and by themselves. So another factor would be if we are asking like why we are doing the foreign direct investment. Why don't just export or something? Once again, I think the details of this discussion would be discussed, will be seen in the international business strategy. But suffice it for now to just imagine what's the limitations of export and licensing. So export means you just send your products. So you're producing at home or somewhere else, and we don't care where it is, but you produce somewhere else, but you sell your products to one particular country. So the limitations of exporting and the viability of exporting might be constrained by this kind of things, like transportation costs and trade barriers, right? What trade barriers? As usual, import limitation or tariffs. They are charging tariffs, or they are levying tariff, or they're what's that? They're making a policy with quotas, right? They're imposing quotas on your products. So you have limitations on export. What about licensing? Licensing means you have the technology and you just sell the license to a local firm somewhere in a foreign country, so they could produce the product or the technology by paying you like a certain royalty amount. So it's like you're holding the licensing or the patent, the license, then you are giving the license to many companies in many countries. So you will get the royalties from the buyers of the license. So you're licensing. However, you see the potential weaknesses of licensing. The first one, you might give away like valuable technological know-how, so you don't like it. You see, like chips producer, right? Chip producers, they don't produce it in countries that they don't trust, right? So they're, because the chip technologies that they're producing chips, right? The chip producer, they know that the technology is really really crucial, highly valuable. So they're quite careful in, even producing somewhere else, let alone licensing. See? Licensing is even worse than just producing somewhere. Even you don't, for very important technology, you don't even want to go somewhere else. You want to produce at home, let alone license out your technology, right? Licensing doesn't give the tight control of a production, marketing, and strategy in a foreign country. This is so true. Maybe you have the standard procedures, you have the SOPs, but you never know what is really happening there. Just look at some famous like food chains, like McDonald's, Burger King, KFC, and some other famous franchises like Pizza Hut also. So they're selling the franchising or the licensing. They're they are training the licensee. Okay, they train the licensees about how to serve, how to produce, somehow how to mix the materials and everything. But even with good training, if you go to many places, there are some differentials. We have to admit, right? There are some gaps or differentials in quality, in service, and everything. So it's very hard to have a precise control, right, of a production, the selling, the advertising, the strategy, and everything. So if you are not sure that you could have the tight control, then maybe licensing might not be the appropriate choice, right? So it depends on the nature of the business, how you want to make money, and there's some other factors. Is the technology really important to control, to make sure that nobody could steal the intellectual properties or something like that? But if you feel that the technology is all, you're just selling your brand, for example, like Coca-Cola or something, the Pepsi, the cola, technology is not really high anymore, because I think there are many other companies that know the trade secret, how to produce such cola, but they have good names, right? So they don't need to have a tight control over the trade secret anymore. They just want to benefit as much as possible from the brand name, from the name of the Coke, the Pepsi, some famous names. So it might be problems if competitive advantage is based not as much on its products as on the management, marketing, and manufacturing capabilities that produce those products. So it would be, quite unsustainable, so to speak. Okay, if you license something, but actually, that the key competitive advantage is not the technology, maybe not the brand name either, but the people. Okay, so it's like, let me put it this way: if you have you have a good strategy, right? You have a good football strategy, but you try to license the formula to another team with no talents, right? With no good players, then it's useless, right? You understand what I'm saying? If you have a good business, but you try to license something like what you have right now to a licensee in another country, but that actually the competitive advantage lies in your people, in your management or manufacturing facilities, then it's useless to license whatever the technology or the name or something to a licensee in that particular country. That they won't succeed, right? So it's like useless type of strategy of licensing. So what about the advantages of FDI? Right, the advantages of FDI here. See, when transportation costs or trade barriers make exporting unattractive, I think it's directly related to this one, right? Limitation of export and licensing. So essentially, we are saying that if we think that the exporting and licensing have so many caveats, so many weaknesses, like problematic situations, then we know that exporting and licensing wouldn't be the right choices. So it's better to go for the FDI, essentially. That's the case. You see the second one also. You want to control over the technology, and also if you could, the third point here, if you go to a particular country, right, you do the FDI there, you could also gain maybe technology. You could learn many things from there. I think this is so true. In the past, many companies went to developed countries, right, advanced countries, developed countries, because when they went to developed nations in the past, they could learn about new technology, management also, and how to improve the value chain, distribution system, and everything. So you could gain something by going there, right? You could learn about the technology and everything. So this pattern here, you see the firms in the same industry often undertake foreign direct investment at about the same time. So we'll discuss this in I think in one or two of the theories of FDI in a while. So there's a tendency that we have this kind of like follower strategy, especially in the oligopolistic industry. Oligopolistic industry where we have like few players. Once a dominant player is doing something, most likely the other players are just playing catch up. They just follow suit. They do exactly the same thing. So let's look at some theories right now, theories of FDI. So the first one, see here by Knickerbocker. Knickerbocker, this is exactly what we just talked about, the oligopolistic industry. Right? So he was looking into the relationship between FDI and rivalry in oligopolistic industries. So we see the fact that if we have this kind of industry, a lot of oligopolists, there will be interdependence of major players, and that will lead to imitative behavior. So if you are looking at like maybe the first or the second biggest player, if they start making a move, like doing FDI in somewhere in Nepal, then we'll just most likely will follow suit, because we are thinking that maybe they have a secret move that has been well analyzed and calculated. So we'll follow suit immediately. However, this theory, right, Knickerbocker's theory doesn't explain the detailed reasons as to why firms are doing FDI. It just explains that in a certain industry with a lot of like big players, usually the players will just will follow suit, will just play catch up with one another. They just follow whatever the biggest or the second biggest or the third biggest is making a move, and they'll just follow because they think that would be the well calculated move. Another theory, so this is famous one, right? Called internalization theory. You see the name there, as the name suggests, internalize. You internalize something. So you try to internalize to build it from inside. That's what we call internalization theory. So this was proposed by, I think, Bucket and Casson the first time in 1976. So they were saying that a company would choose the internalization path rather than licensing or exporting. It's better that they build internally if there are market imperfections. So in other words, they're saying this, right? They will only do like open market transactions. Open market transaction means you find a partner, or you license out your technologies, or you export, you make a joint venture or anything with your partner. You only do that if the cost of doing that, the cost of the open market transaction is much lower than what you can do internally. Otherwise, you just choose to internalize the process. Internalizing the process means you build your own, right? Maybe vertically, maybe horizontally. Yeah, it doesn't matter. Vertically means maybe you go to another country to build like the inventories, right? To make your own suppliers, no? Or you build your own distribution channels, or you build your production facilities there, or anything. Once again, in essence, we are saying that as long as the cost, right, the cost of what's that, building the business internally is the same or lower than the open market mechanism, then it's better to do it internally. That's why we call it internalization theory. So what market imperfections they're talking about? For example, if the coordination of resources over a long period is needed, so it's better to do it internally. You can imagine, like, you want to make sure that your distribution channel will always comply with your policy, your instructions. Then it's better to make it now internal rather than having a partnership with other companies or something, because it's not necessarily easy to give instructions to other companies, right? See, there will be a feud and quarrel, and then you will clash, and some unproductive things will happen. The second one here, when the efficient exploitation of market power requires discriminatory pricing. So if you want to gain power, you might need this kind of discriminatory pricing, not following the market pricing. So if you have your own suppliers, definitely you could determine the internal transfer pricing, right? Whatever price you want to buy from your suppliers, because your suppliers belong to you as well, right? You see the situation. It's better to internalize if you need that market power and discriminatory pricing. When bilateral monopoly produces unstable bargaining situations, right? If you have bilateral monopoly, so if you have you go to another country with the same like monopolistic power, then definitely it's hard to bargain. So it's better to internalize the whole process rather than going for the open market, transactions or negotiation or something. Or when the buyer can't price correctly the goods on sale, or when public goods are involved, it's very difficult to find the market prices or something. Or the fifth point there is that when the government interventions in international markets create incentive for transfer pricing. So you get some incentive maybe. If you go to one particular country, you might get incentive because you are producing there, you absorb their labor, you create jobs there, you get some incentive in that country, then it's quite interesting, quite attractive to do it internally rather than forging a relationship with another company there. So we have seen the internalization theory, and one of the branches of the internalization theory is the eclectic paradigm. Oh, this is interesting one. See the guy here, John Dunning. I think the first time he talked about this was in 1976. Sorry, 1979. So 1976 was Bucket and Casson, right? 1976 for the eclectic paradigm, championed by Dunning. So it was firstly written in 1979, and they called it the OLI, the OLI paradigm. Okay, so you see some names here, but I will just go straight to the OLI because it's easy to imagine. So what is OLI according to Dunning? So once again, the eclectic paradigm is a branch of the internalization theory with the internalize there. So what is the O and L and I? So O stands for ownership assets. So they're saying that if you have like ownership assets like the know-how, the technology, the brand, the skill, the management, the talents, and something like that. So if you have this kind of important ownership assets, it's better to internalize. rather than licensing, conducting or making a joint venture, exporting or something else, cooperating with other companies or something. It's better to internalize if you have, that you have ownership assets, very crucial ones. And what about L? L would be location advantages. Location advantages. So you know that you have this kind of location advantages. You go to a specific place, right, particular country, maybe they have specific resources that you need. Some what's that, mineral, some metal or mineral there. You could do mining there. You have the technology, you know the location and everything. So you try to internalize rather than doing the open market transactions with other companies. And the third one is again the internalization advantages. So this is again the OLI, right? The OLI paradigm here is actually a branch of internalization theory. So essentially, the third point here is repeating what we just discussed. So if you know, you will only do the open market transactions only if the cost of doing so is much lower than that which could be achieved by doing it by yourself. Like doing it internally. So if the cost, the transaction cost, the anything like transaction cost, transportation cost, any kind of cost of open market transactions is much lower than what you can achieve internally, then you will do the open market transactions. Otherwise, you'll just internalize the whole process, right? So we call it the OLI, right? OLI paradigm or eclectic paradigm. Okay. What about the political ideology of countries? Of course, every country approaches the FDI differently. Some are enthusiastic, some are ignorant, some are opposing, right? So it depends on how you see it, right? So let's begin with the radical view. The radical view, again, it traces its roots to, I think, the extreme communism, right? The communist ideology, the extreme socialistic ideology, political and economic ideologies. So what is it? They are saying that the multinational corporation, multinational enterprises, they are just the instruments of imperialist domination. I think it stems from the the historical account. In the past, we had this kind of East India Company or something, right? The like the Dutch had the VOC in the past. The British has the EIC or some other names. The Spain also had, Portugal had some multinational corporations in the past that came to new worlds, the undiscovered worlds at that time, to look for natural resources, labor, and some other resources. So this kind of historical, perspective, permits this ideology, saying that actually multinational corporations, they're just they just want to exploit a country. They exploit the host country, to benefit as much as possible, and then they just leave when there's nothing else to exploit. Okay, so under this extreme version of perspective, then no country should ever permit foreign corporations to undertake FDI. So it's better to say no to FDI, right? If the country believe in this radical view, saying that no, they just come here for whatever exploitation or anything. But so we are not accusing anyone here, but you see, some countries, I think, to a certain extent, still believe in this view by rejecting all kinds of foreign direct investment. So what is of course, if you take something into its extremity, I think the major consequence would be, a lack of development, and lower living standards. You see in some countries, they don't even know the level of the world right now. They just live in like I don't know, the natural way, but not in a positive perspective. Right? I hope you understand what I mean, right? They live like super naturally, but in a not in a positive way, right? So they're lagging behind in knowledge, in technology, and everything. And of course, this is not good, right? Not good for the standard of living of the citizens and something. However, this radical position was in retreat, of course, because once again, in the modern times, I think all citizens in the world, they could have access to information. They will see that other countries are enjoying like prosperity, with good living standards, good health standards. So they would pressure their own governments to at least move forward rather than getting stuck or going backward, even worse. So they would pressure the governments to move forward. And we have seen in some of our case studies, even in a super conservative country, a supposedly highly conservative country, they are now opening up. Why? Because they know that the natural resources would be depleted at one point in time. It can't last forever. How much oil can you dig in the next 100 years? Not sure. You have to dig deeper and deeper, and they will be depleted. They will be gone. And what will you do when your major major exporting commodity is depleted? Then you need something else, right? You need some development. You need the financial markets. You need talents. You need technologies, right? So I think there's a common logic, common sense in the minds of the citizens of the world. Of course, some people are quite extreme. They're just based on hatred. Right? I don't like something, I hate something, so I don't want anything from it. So I think that's this somehow has been diminishing, right? That kind of thought. And this is proven by the collapse of communism in Eastern Europe. At least officially, okay. Of course, in the minds of some older generations, maybe they're still holding on to the ideology, but the country itself is not, right? It's not communist country anymore. But of course, somehow the older generation, or maybe some parts of the generations or the communities, are still holding on to the ideology. I mean, it happens everywhere. If you look at whatever countries, there will always be like a group of people who hold on to a certain ideology, no matter what happens, no matter how wrong it is, they will just hold on to it because that's their belief, right? So nothing to comment about. Okay? Also, I think the second one is even more rational. Generally abysmal economic performance of countries that embrace this kind of radical position. So we can, verify quickly this kind of socialistic countries, communist countries, they are not doing well, right? That's why even communist countries in the world, like Vietnam, China, they're opening up their economies, right? Politically, they remain closed because they want to hold on to power. Of course, they want to have a strong grip in power. But in terms of economy, they want to make sure that their countries somehow prosper. No, they want to increase the living standards of citizens, because the more prosperous the citizens are, the less likely they complain, right? Less likely they complain means the less likely the social unrest will happen, right? This kind of like retaliation, social unrest is less likely to happen if the citizens are happy. So how to make them happy? The first standard would be to give them enough jobs and money. I remember, according to Herzberg says that money is the hygiene factor. Hygiene factor means if you have it, you're okay. If you don't have it, you're pissed off, right? But if you have it, you feel okay. It's not a motivator, it's just a hygiene factor. But of course, we have other motivating factors like the the happiness, the self-actualization, self-esteem, right? The self, I don't know, like yeah, self-actualization, right? To sum up everything. So you have a lot of motivators, but money and job security is like hygiene factors. If you have it, it's okay. If you don't have it, you're pissed off. You're angry. So at least they give them the kind of minimum, minimum requirement, so to speak. And also we are seeing strong economic performance of those developing countries. You see that Singapore, Hong Kong, generally like before the integration, and Taiwan. Yes, how to say that Taiwan is a country of its own as of today. Right? But Singapore would be I think very good example. That Singapore is also a predominantly Chinese country, also predominantly Chinese. You see the development. It has been the first level country, first world country within 25 years of independence. So how could they achieve that? Definitely by economic paradigm, right? The open economy. Right? See, like China, of course, China is is comprised of Chinese. Right? Singapore is also predominantly Chinese, but you see their development is very different for the first, for the first 25 years, just because of the major difference in ideology. So actually, it's not a matter of the ethnic, but the matter of the ideology, right? The economic ideology that we employ. The open economy has more attractiveness, to big talents. Once again, if you have talents, technology will improve. You have good products, you sell good products, you develop your country to be an attractive place, and so on. So the money always flow to a more attractive place. I think that's natural, right? Just like water, it's flowing to the best place, like it's flowing. So the flow of money to the most attractive places. So what about the other extreme? So we see the radical view to the left, and we have the free market view. I think we saw it last week also. The absolute advantage, the comparative advantage, and the product life cycle theory, new product theory, and all about the free market. So this is to the other to the other part of the spectrum. Again, this is strengthened by the internalization explanation of the FDI. So we are going somewhere to enjoy the free market. If we could find better places for production, right? Better places to sell your goods and services, then we go. Right? It's free market view, right? Free market view. And of course, I think the idea is great. You open up all opportunities, and according to the laissez-faire economy, if everybody is given an opportunity, to pursue his or her own interests, then the societal interest would be achieved, at one point, right? Simultaneously or automatically. So that's what they believe. But of course, nothing is perfect. Right? We are not saying that free market is always working well. But I think the foundation of the free market idea is great. There's some weaknesses there that we have to remedy from time to time. That's why for example, the government interference, government intervention is sometimes required in certain situations. Even this happens in the most free country in the world, like in the United States. Whenever something goes wrong with the banking crisis, financial institutions that are too big to fail, then the government will come in to provide some guarantee or bailout. Even in a country like the United States, the government intervention happens. It prevails from time to time depending on the situation. So there's no perfect view. There's no pure implementation of like free market view or the communistic view. So somewhere in the middle would be the pragmatic nationalism. So this one says a country has to be pragmatic. Pragmatic in the sense that we have to look at the look at each case differently. Okay, so we're analyzing on a case by case basis. Okay, so pragmatic nationalists, as long as the foreign direct investment is deemed beneficial, the country will accept the FDI. Okay, but it feels that it doesn't benefit much, or it requires too much, maybe the country will reject. No, the government might reject the coming of FDI. I think this happens a lot in, I don't know, maybe in African countries right now, in Southeast Asia also. Right? Many of the Southeast Asian countries, they're accepting FDIs, of course, but they're quite selective. Like not FDIs are accepted. They're choosing, they're picking beneficial ones, and they might reject some other proposals that they don't feel beneficial. So this is called pragmatic nationalism. And if you're a company, it's inevitable that you have to analyze this. Right? You're going to a country, and let me give you an example. Maybe there was another company from your country that tried to go to a country, but suddenly, no, your peer company pulled out of its proposal. Then that country became very angry. Right? And maybe 2 or 3 years later, you try to go to that country, and definitely they're still unhappy with all companies from your country. You understand what I'm saying? Right? Definitely they will say, what are you offering? Then you have to, renegotiate. We have to talk nice things to the government officials and something. I think this is inevitable. That's why whenever you're working internationally, you have a lot of knowledge and art combined. So you have the knowledge, you have the skills, but you need the art. Remember, for the last, I think, 5 weeks, the previous 5 weeks, we talked about the culture differences in the legal system, political economy, and also the culture again. So we try to learn, right? Especially again, if you have this kind of situation, and this really happens. My example was from a particular country in Southeast Asia, or maybe some like a firm went there like 2 or 3 years ago, and it pulled out before making a deal, and the country became very angry. The government became very angry, and you go there, the government is still the same, the same regime, the same administration. Now you have to negotiate a lot because they don't like you. Definitely, they don't like you. So you have to, somehow offer some more than the above par, right? Above par benefits for them to be attracted again to your offer, right? Something like that. So pragmatic, I think this is the most common one in many countries in the world. They're pragmatic, right? You go there, they will look into it. Not necessarily accepted, but they will look into each case. So how to attract them? For example, you're saying you go there and you will share some technology. Of course, you're sharing non-essential technologies. Of course, no business people will ever share the the primary technologies for the knowledge transfer, because usually the host country will ask for it. They will ask, what knowledge transfer will you provide? You will provide them. I say you have certain technologies that you could share or something. Yeah, we have that kind of bargaining. So shifting the ideology, that more and more countries are shifting toward more open economy with more welcoming the FDI. See here, liberalized, more accepting, more welcoming to foreign direct investments, including even China, Vietnam, India, right? Many other countries that we deemed difficult in terms of FDI in the past. So what about the host country benefits here? We can discuss this quickly. Resource transfer effects. Okay, so we have knowledge transfer, capital, technology, management resources. We have the resource transfer that could be enjoyed by the host country. Employment effects could bring a lot of jobs there. Balance of payments effects. If we go there, you see, in the balance of payments calculation, if you go to a country, you produce there and you sell it there, it's not considered export. And to that host country, it's not considered import, right? Because it's produced in the host country. So for example, you have maybe LG or Samsung, like from Korea, you go to whatever, you go to Thailand or Vietnam, you're producing there, you build the facilities and everything there. And then you're selling from there also. You're selling to Vietnamese your electronic devices, your mobile phones and everything. Then they are not part of imports to the host country. So they will be they will be happier because it's produced there, although it belongs to you, right? The brand, the whole facilities belong to you. Also, competition and economic growth, if the host country could attract a lot of FDIs, then the products in the host country will be quite competitive, because now the local products have to compete with a lot of incoming products, a lot of international products. Otherwise, you don't have any competition, right? If you don't have any competition, then most likely you don't develop well, because you don't have the incentive to improve. Okay, so actually, if you look at whatever country, a country that is more open is getting more and more competitive, right? More and more competitive. So you don't need to actually, if you think about it, we don't even need to close down any competition, by put deterrence to FDI or import or anything. So just give the competition open, and the local products will fight harder, will improve faster also. But of course, nobody wants to suffer even in the short run. So usually, the domestic enterprises, domestic firms, especially the small ones, they will ask for protection, so they are not eaten out by competitors, especially from foreign countries. I think that's understandable. But you see the balance there. If you are a government, this is the way that you have to strike the balance. So you want to protect, of course, the small companies at home, small businesses. But on the other hand, you also want to encourage them to improve, right? And one of the mechanisms would be, to invite competitors to make them more efficient, right? So this is the dilemma there. What about the what's that? Cost, host country, let's say disadvantages, okay? The cost of disadvantages. For example, the adverse effects on competition. So they will they will eat out the indigenous companies, right? The domestic companies in the host country, because maybe those incoming competitors, they have cost efficiency because they're producing somewhere else. Can you imagine, like you have a Chinese company coming to maybe one particular country in Southeast Asia or in Africa, right? The Chinese company is very good at cost efficiency, because labor cost is low at home, and they could have access to many, the supply chain, the whole supply chain from the inventories, the raw materials, talents, and everything, to distribution channels, right? From left to right, the horizontal integration there, or even vertical integration. So when this Chinese company goes to, let's say, a particular country there, their products might be like cheaper, with also better technology, better quality. So the domestic products might be in trouble. So this, I think, one of the major issues in many developing countries that so my point here is that if you were that company, what would you do, right, to convince the host country that you go there, you bring benefits, you will involve the local companies or whatever, you know, to make them attracted to your idea. Okay, this is the way the international executive will do. Also, balance of payments. You see, like remember the argument previously. If you go to a country, you produce there, and you sell your products there. Actually, those won't be part of import because you're producing there. But we have to remember that maybe for that production, we have to bring a lot of inventories from, let's say, raw materials from our home country. So the host country doesn't import the finished goods, but they have to import the raw materials, right? Because we are sending the raw materials from our home country. You see, like that's somehow the other side of the balance of payments mechanism. Right? So you don't export the finished goods, but actually you are exporting the raw materials. Just another way of making the balance of trade deficit for the host country. And national sovereignty and autonomy. Maybe you become too big. For example, you can imagine if you're a Chinese company again, you go to a country, you build a high-speed railway, okay, high-speed train, and high-speed train will connect major cities in that country. So indirectly, you are having a lot of power in that country. So the local people might not be happy with it because they will say, you see, our transportation system is controlled by another country. If something happens, they're not happy with us. They will cut all the technology and we don't have any train. You understand what I'm saying, right? This is, again, the common concern, especially in a developing country. So now it's your task, right? As an executive, you go there, you say nice things now. You make them attracted to your proposal. You're saying, oh no, we don't do this. We will employ your people. We'll we only hire our high tech people only to maybe the first 2 levels, but the rest of the level would be filled by the local people. So you have the technology, you have the power and everything. So we try to persuade them, right? Persuade the host country. You understand what I'm saying? That's the task of the business person, right? To make a case, make an attractive case or something. But they are concerned about it for sure. So home country now is the opposite way. Home country benefits. We are home country. We are the country to which the multinational corporation belongs. So what's the benefit here? Balance of payments will improve because now you have inflow of earnings from overseas. You're doing production there, you get money, you repatriate your money. The money repatriation will increase your current account as well. Benefits to the home country because you could have like employment effect, especially if the job at home is quite saturated. If you're a country like the I don't know, maybe Europe, maybe if your employment is saturated at home and you have overseas operations, then that would be a good way to send your people there. You expand the employment, okay? And also, if you know that you're going to a foreign market with good skills, right? If you are a European firm, you're going to China, not only can you sell a lot of products there in China because of its population, but you also can learn a lot of skills there because China has a lot of good technology as well. And you could get good talents there that you could bring back even to your home country if you want, right? So there will be a lot of benefits. But of course, there are disadvantages to the home country as well. Like the balance of payment might suffer because remember, initial capital, you need to go there, you need to build the infrastructure, the facilities and everything. So you need the capital expenditures, right? The initial investment, and that would be what money outflows from your country to the host country. And current account might not improve because now now you don't export, you go there, you produce there, and you sell it there. So you don't have additional export because now you're doing the FDI. You go there, you produce there, everything is there, and you're selling your products there as well. And yeah, so in addition to that, when you have like low cost products from there, you might import back to your home country, right? You're producing there, you import the products back to your country, then there will be imports there. So this will make your current account more deficit, right? Okay, common sense. Yeah, this one, like the second and the third one. So it will somehow make your current account deteriorate in the sense that it's getting more deficit because now you don't export because you're producing there, you're selling there. But in addition to that, you might import the finished goods from there to your home country because it's cheap, right? Cheaper. And also employment, we are arguing that when you go away from your home country, you're shifting, you're moving the production facilities from your home country, to the host country, then you are reducing employment at home. Now you're opening jobs in the host country, but in the home country, employment is cut because you're going away. It could be. Okay, so international trade theory and FDI, I think we saw it from our previous discussion. Right? The home country concerns about the negative economic effects of offshore production may be displaced. Right? Offshore means we are going somewhere else. FDI, so we go somewhere and we are producing there to sell it there, but also maybe we send the finished goods back to home country because it's cheaper to produce there. This kind of, the free market view, especially, right? We're looking at this especially from the American perspective, right? The free market view. We're saying that actually we don't need to worry too much about the declining employment in the older technology. If we combine this discussion with last week's topic about the product life cycle, maybe we go to another country, to the host country, because the technology has been older. So we need cost efficiency. That's why we are moving to a host country with cheaper labor, also more available natural resources or some other reasons. Then actually at home, like in the home country, we could encourage like new technologies. You could imagine like in the the production of television set. I don't see any significant TV producers in the United States anymore because the technology is old, right? So they're producing in China, they're buying from China, Korea, Japan, many other countries. So they could shift, right? The newer generation, they could shift to newer technologies. For example, with the more advanced technology, like the metaverse or something, right? So they're moving toward more like virtual reality or something, or whatever other important sectors like medical, biochemistry, rocket sciences, and some other things. So we could, at least on the paper, okay, conceptually, we are saying that we could allocate newer generations to the next level technologies rather than being stuck in the old technology. So usually when we go somewhere, it's about the cost efficiency, right? This kind of resources and something like that, right? but not necessarily too, because nowadays we could go somewhere because we need the talents, because there are so many good talents somewhere else, good technologies also, right, in many other places. Yeah, so home country consumers will benefit because you can get cheaper products, especially for like common products, commodities. If you produce somewhere else, you send it back, it will be cheaper than making it at home. Okay, so yeah, some other things. So we are arguing that even to the home country, this kind of like foreign direct investment is still beneficial, especially in the long run. In the short run, there might be some painful period because the jobs are disappearing because the company is going away. You can imagine like General Motors, if they go more and more to China, to Brazil, so to other countries, then jobs will decline at home, right? For at least for a temporary period. Then this pain is hopefully short because maybe they will find another industry, another sector like blue ocean industries that will provide them with better opportunities. But of course, nobody wants to suffer even in the short term. That's why there will be a lot of complaints because of that. Then the government intervention might be quite crucial here to give incentive to whatever companies that would take care of the domestic workers and domestic employees to somehow minimize the painful period if they have to shift jobs or to find another job or something like that. So you see the last point, this is I think quite true also. If the company is prohibited from the FDI, sooner or later your competitors will come with cheaper products. So if you don't do it, other competitors will do it anyway. So you will lose your competitiveness anyway. So it's like, how to say it, like in the maybe in sports or in football, your attacking, okay, your offensive strategies might be your best defensive strategy, right? Because when you attack, actually that might be your good defense as well. Could see it that way. What about home country policies? Home country policies, there are many countries that encourage outward FDI. They're encouraging, like, okay, go to other countries, do productions there, find the best locations for production, for productivity, for efficiency or something. But there are countries that really restrict the outward FDI. They don't want capital outflows, so they forbid the companies to go to other countries to do the foreign direct investment. Right? And the same thing here for the host country perspective. There are some host countries that encourage the inflows, the FDI inflows. They love it because the standard of living will improve. They'll get like new technologies. They'll learn from, they will get the knowledge transfer, the technology transfer, the talents and everything. But there are many countries that restrict the FDI inflows as well because they don't like foreigners. They don't want to deal with foreign companies or whatever reasons. Or maybe they are concerned about ownership, right? For example, they allow you to come, but your ownership is restricted to maybe 49%. Right? So you couldn't have the majority ownership in the local company there when you go to a specific country. So there are many things that could happen, but again, I think it's the dilemma between the power, control, and economy, right? Power and economy. So these two things are not necessarily going hand in hand. See, that's the problem, right? If you want to hold on to power, actually you like the both, right? You like the strong power, but you like prosperous economy. But maybe something that you want is like it's not really corresponding with one another. It's not in line, but it's going the opposite way. So you have to somehow you have to give in a bit, right? Yeah, lower your power grip to increase the economy, right? The more open economy. But if it's too open, then your political power might diminish. So you don't want that also, usually, especially in a socialistic country or communist country. So you want to strike the balance there. It's just like I don't know, maybe in the sport, you see like a car, like F1 Grand Prix. Are you seeing if you want speed, maybe your balance is not that good. So if you want a good balance and good grip, maybe your speed is sacrificed a bit. So there's something quite natural in every aspect of life. International institutions and the liberalization of FDI, see the World Trade Organization. Yeah, so 1995, the WTO, they regulate the international trade. Basically, they promote the open trade, right? Open economy, higher trade, higher understanding among countries. Actually, we talked about this. We saw it previously at the theory, but we go straight to this one. So once again, the internalization theory, including the eclectic paradigm. Remember this guy, John Dunning, famous for the OLI mechanism, OLI, right? Ownership assets, location advantages, and internalization advantages. So this is a simple, rule of thumb here. So how high are transportation costs and tariffs? If it's high, then we have to continue with the FDI choice. But if the transportation costs and tariff are low, so maybe we just need to consider exporting. Remember, right? According to internalization concept, or theory, it says that you will only use the open market transactions, right? Only if the costs, right, including the transportation costs, the transaction cost, any kind of cost is lower when you do it, in the open market transactions than what you can do internally. Right? Only then will you use the open market transaction. Otherwise, you use the internalization. You internalize the whole process, right? The vertical integration and the horizontal integration or other things. So if transportation cost is low enough, then you could consider exporting rather than the foreign direct investment. But if it's high, then you continue with the next question. Is know-how amenable to licensing? Amenable? If it's no, then it's better to go for an FDI. Okay, so know-how, is it amenable? If it's not amenable, then you have to choose FDI. But if it's amenable, it's not really how to say it, like you could compromise on it, then you could continue with the next question. Is tight control over foreign operation required? If yes, then you have to choose FDI. If you want a tight control of a foreign operation, over your foreign operations. But if you don't think that tight control is necessary, then you can continue with the next question. Can know-how be protected by licensing contract? If you say no, then again, you have to choose FDI. But if you say yes, you could protect it by the intellectual properties law in that country, then maybe you could use the licensing. Okay, so this is a rule of thumb that we can consider. And again, licensing here, no. Licensing might not be a good option. See here, high-tech industries, because you want to protect the patent, like the high-tech, or global oligopolies. You have the competitive interdependence. Okay, so we need to be very tight because you have some big competitors, like the oligopolistic industry. So it's necessary that you have tight control over your foreign operations. So it's better to choose the FDI rather than licensing. And also intense cost pressure. So we have to be highly efficient. Then we have to maintain the strong coordination and control. Also vertically from the suppliers to the distribution channel. Government policy, host government attitude toward FDI will be important variable. So it's the task of the executive, right, to learn about the government that you are going to, how to negotiate, what kind of political system, culture they have, although you know that most of the countries are moving toward free market, so more and more open nowadays, but still we have to learn a lot about the host country where you are going. Okay, so the outcome of any negotiation or negotiated agreement will depend on this, right? The value each side places. For example, what does the host country want from you? Maybe they want your technology, they want the knowledge transfer. What do you want from them? You want more efficient production there, more productive labor, natural resources, or anything else that you want. Comparable alternative, if you have alternative, then you have a higher bargaining power. But on the other hand, the host country also has a lot of alternative. For example, you are selling, I don't know, the making something, transportation or vehicles there. You want to build a factory, a car factory, and you're asking for some concessions, some incentive, and the host country is telling you that they also have other alternatives. So they have bargaining power also, and time horizon of everyone, right, from your side and also from the host country side. Okay, I think that's all from me for the foreign direct investment. Thank you for tuning in, and see you next time.